Title: The Whispering Wendigo of Pikes Peak. Living in Colorado Springs, you hear a lot about the natural beauty and the outdoor adventures that Pikes Peak offers. But there's a darker side to this majestic mountain that not many people talk about. A tale that has been whispered among locals for generations. The story of the Whispering Wendigo. I first heard about the Wendigo when I was a kid. My grandpa used to tell me stories about his camping trips in the Rockies. He was a tough old man, not easily spooked, but there was one story that always made him shiver. It happened when he was a young man, camping with his buddies near the summit of Pikes Peak. They had set up camp and were enjoying the peaceful night, when suddenly they heard a strange, haunting whisper. It seemed to come from all directions at once. The words were unintelligible, but the tone was unmistakably malevolent. His friends brushed it off as the wind, but my grandpa knew better. He said it felt like something was watching them, something ancient and hungry. That night they heard footsteps circling their camp, but when they shone their flashlights into the darkness, they saw nothing. The whispers grew louder, more insistent, and the air turned frigid. One of his friends, a skeptic, decided to go investigate. He walked into the darkness, and they heard his footsteps fade away. Moments later, they heard a scream, cut short by an unnatural silence. Terrified, my grandpa and his remaining friends packed up their gear and hiked down the mountain as fast as they could. They never saw their friend again. Authorities searched for days but found no trace of him. The official report said he must have gotten lost and succumbed to the elements, but my grandpa believed otherwise. He was convinced that the Wendigo had taken him. The legend of the Wendigo comes from Native American folklore, describing a malevolent spirit that possesses people, turning them into cannibalistic monsters. It's said that the Wendigo is born from extreme hunger and isolation, traits that Pikes Peak, with its harsh weather and treacherous terrain, can amplify. Over the years, I've heard other stories from hikers and campers who have experienced strange occurrences near Pikes Peak. They talk about hearing whispers that seem to come from nowhere, feeling an overwhelming sense of dread, and sometimes even seeing shadowy figures in the distance. Some believe it's just the isolation and high altitude playing tricks on the mind, but others are convinced that the Wendigo is real. A few years ago, a group of college students decided to film a documentary about the legend. They spent a week on the mountain, recording everything. When they returned, they looked haggard and refused to speak about what happened. The footage they captured was disturbing. Shadows moving in the background, strange noises and whispers that grew louder each night. The final clip showed one of the students, wide-eyed with fear, saying, "It's here," before the camera cut out. The Whispering Wendigo of Pikes Peak remains one of Colorado's most chilling urban legends. Whether it's just a tale to scare newcomers or a real entity lurking in the shadows, one thing is certain. Those who venture into the wilderness of Pikes Peak do so at their own risk. So if you ever find yourself camping on Pikes Peak and hear a whisper in the night, be wary. It might just be the wind, or it might be the Wendigo, waiting for its next victim. And that's the story. True or not, it's enough to make anyone think twice about camping alone on Pikes Peak.